But then when you see some of these factories coming up, and you have the old, the existing that we sometimes expand to create jobs for our own people, we turn a blind eye on it. Honorable Speaker, I believe that for us to strengthen our trade sector and the industrial sector, there are some key things that must also come to play. One, the attitude of our people in reacting, producing, and also consuming what we also produce in Ghana becomes very critical. Many of the state-owned enterprises, and Mr. Speaker, I share a personal experience as well. During Christmas and Easter festivities, where many state-owned enterprises will prefer to buy foreign rice for even their staff than the locally produced rice. And all these things definitely will have rippling effect on even the currency of our country. Once again, let me also dwell on the attitude of our people when I also say it's critical in strengthening our industrial sector. Many members of parliament, for instance, have similar experiences of even this access to microcredit. Our own people, you support with this microcredit, and many members of parliament end up carrying the burden of paying the entire credit that they even help to secure, guarantee, or support constituents and people who may be in need. I believe that even though the foundation has been laid, let me commend the previous government for the 169 companies under the 1D1F, with the old, expanding the old companies and also the establishment of new ones. But I believe that these companies will eventually die off if we do not even consume what they are producing, if we do not take advantage of what they are even producing. And then also the taste developed by for foreign goods, right, Honorable Speaker, is something that I won't say you can compel somebody to just necessarily consume what we produce in Ghana. But I think we should also make it much more attractive for these companies.
A country where we have good brains, but we don't consciously train our people with the requisite technological know-how to be able to man our industry. The other challenge we have as a country is high cost of production. You have industries that are folding up because of high production. I remember a case where there was this company producing parts. Because of high cost of production, they had to fold up in this country. And they relocated in Egypt, where they were producing at relatively very low cost. The products, when they produce and bring the products to this country, they are able to sell it far lesser than the price they were selling in this country and still make profit. So which means that the cost of production is a matter that we have to look at as a country. The high tariff being paid by these industries is something that we have to look at. We are transiting into renewable energy. That is what we have to look at as a country. Let's see how we can introduce these renewable energy sources in our industries. And I'm sure when that is done, it can help to bring down cost of production and also reduce the burden on this, our industries. The other issue that we have to look at is the taxes. The taxes are so much on these industries. The cost of production is very high because we tax them so much. At the end of the day, they cannot even break even. And that is very worrisome. One thing that we also have to look at is to try and see how we can introduce these industries in our rural communities. I know the previous government tried to look at this 1D, 1F, but if you look at the way they tax some of these setups as industries, I think some of them were not qualified. There were some which were just could just be somebody's poultry farm. They name it as industry, and so we need to really look at if we are industrializing our districts or establishing industries in the districts, we really have to get serious and take serious measures to be able to establish this. So, Mr. Speaker, on my recommendation, I will urge us as a country to try and see how we can take advantage of the huge raw materials we have as a country and work towards introducing more industries. We have to also train more people with technological know-how to be able to manage these industries. Another way we can motivate to let people stay and work in the industries is to be able to find a way of reducing cost of production. And if we are able to do all these things, I believe strongly that we, as a country, can really take our industrialization more seriously and get to establish more industries to be able to accommodate the teething unemployment we have as a country. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Very much. I give the floor to Honorable Samuel Abu-Jinapo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by the Honorable Michael Ochre-Befi, MP for New Joabin South. So, Speaker, on a very important subject, which is the industrial sector and trade for sustainable economic growth. Mr. Speaker, I think that the Honorable MP should be commended for bringing this very topical matter, and I should say, a very timely subject. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure this House has been following the trade war between the United States of America, China, Mexico, Canada, and the European Union, and the retaliatory slapping of import duties and tariffs on their respective imports. And this is why the whole area and sector of trade in our country, both domestic and international trade, is absolutely important. Mr. Speaker, I believe that when you take a cursory look at the statement made by the Honorable MP and the contributions made, I think the question of trade facilitation and trade promotion is absolutely important. The issue to do with infrastructure, such as our ports, Mr. Speaker, how competitive are our ports, the Tema Port, the Takoradi Port, as opposed to Lomé Port, and all of that. I think it's absolutely important that we pay attention to that. Mr. Speaker, the Boankra Inland Port, which was begun by the Akufo-Addo government and which is almost complete, to what extent are we going to complete it? To what extent are we going to operationalize it? And to what extent are we going to use that as a tool or a vehicle for trade facilitation and promotion? Mr. Speaker, when you go to Debr in the Savannah region of Ghana, there is another inland port which has been envisioned by the Akufo-Addo administration, which is meant that we're going to have goods transported from Tema Port to Debr, and Debr becoming the hub for transportation of goods from Savannah region to Burkina Faso, to Mali, to Niger, to Chad. To what extent are we going to, the new Minister for Trade and the new government is going to complete this project and make it as an anchor and use as an anchor for trade facilitation and trade promotion? Mr. Speaker, another area of significant importance is also the area of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. As you know, Mr. Speaker, Ghana is the headquarters for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And the Africa Continental Free Trade Area has a mandate to promote intra-African trade and bring about a regional market for Africa. And Ghana is hosting this secretariat. Ghana is leading the effort, Mr. Speaker, at ensuring that we have African integration when it comes to trade in Africa. I believe that Ghana should take advantage of this effort by the African Union to build a continental market. Mr. Speaker, the statistic is that intra-African trade is some 7% of all the trade that happens within Africa. And when you take the European Union, intra-European Union trade is above 70%. And the benefits that we will accrue as a nation, if, for example, we are able to export our salt to places like Nigeria, where Nigeria, as we speak today, imports their salt far away from Brazil. And these are the areas we need to pay particular attention to. Mr. Speaker, we also need to look at import substitution. Import substitution is absolutely important because If we are able to promote import substitution, Mr. Speaker, and produce as much of our consumables here in Ghana and consume them here in Ghana and consume made in Ghana, Mr. Speaker, that is the only way we can retain Ghanaian wealth within Ghana. And that is how we can promote the private sector of Ghana, Mr. Speaker, and that is how we will not export our hard-earned currency, hard-earned foreign currency. And if I may say, Mr. Speaker, almost everything we consume in our country is mostly imported. And so import substitution is absolutely important. And that is why the Akufo-Addo administration again brought about the one district, one factory. And I think it's particularly refreshing, Mr. Speaker, that the new government is also brought about agro-business as a component of the Ministry of Agriculture, as well as industry as a component of the Ministry of Trade. Agro-processing is key, particularly in the farming enclaves of our country, Afram Plain, northern Ghana, and other parts of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by indicating that the statement which has been made by the Honourable Member of Parliament calls for a lot more thorough examination, because across the world, countries are now engaged in what is called protectionism, which is that countries want to protect their industries, they want to protect their private sector, they want to ensure that their countries only consume what they produce. At the same time, they want to export what they produce, the excess of what they produce, they want to export it out, and which are the two pillars of protectionism. I think it's about time that our country also begins to examine and interrogate how we can build a protectionist economy in our country, a protectionist national economy, where we produce here, we consume what we produce, and whatever we have in excess, we are able to export, beginning with the West African region of Africa and the continental economy of Africa, to ensure that the Ghanaian economy grows so we can have the sustainable economic growth the Honourable Member of Parliament is calling for. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, leadership. Minority Whip.
Speaker, let me first of all thank you for the admirable endurance shown today. If one counts the number of statements you have admitted, it is not ordinary, and I want to commend you for having endured all this while, and particularly commend my good friend, the Honourable former Deputy Minister for Trade, carrying the experience along. Speaker, let me try to veer off, not to repeat many of the good things that colleagues have observed, just to narrow my contribution in this area. It's not debatable, Speaker, that we have to depart from what the first president of this country, President Nkrumah, led, and get onto it and blaze a path where growth, industrial revolution will be private sector led. That model has to sink, and both sides of the divide will have to come to that conclusion that it is only a private sector led industrialization that can change the fortunes and change the narrative. Speaker, the state leading industrialization has failed. It's failed. And many of the industries that were built from independence had to be sold out to private entities. We can have another day to make that argument, but the point is that a private sector-led industrial growth is what can change the narrative and change the story. And for me, that should be the fulcrum of the discussion. We have something in our Constitution called Chapter 6, Directive Principle of State Policy. And successive governments have a moral mandate and responsibility to continue what the previous government has started off. If it is the case that the previous government's policy of 1D, 1F, we may have our criticisms of its implementation, we may have our criticism of shortfalls, associated inherent shortfalls. If it is the case that indeed, and I took a casual look at the NDC's manifesto on industrialization. It is essentially not different from what the NPP stood for. It's essentially not different. Your manifesto says previous industrial moves started by the NPP administration, you are going to continue with that. Speaker, let's come to that stage.
Honourable member, address me.
Yes, Speaker, I'm addressing you. Let's come to that stage of our development paradigm where we will say that let's jettison the shame, if there is any, and say that the LPP started 1D, 1F. It's built this number of industries. So we will have to continue with that. We continue the ones. I'm not here to tell you the number of industries we've built. I don't have the statistics. Probably the former minister can tell you. But I'm making a point that one day you will also not be in government. One day you'll be out. In fact, soon you'll be out. Soon you'll be out. Soon you'll be out.
Please be guided accordingly.
I stay on course. So let's continue a culture of continuity. That is what I'm speaking to. A culture of continuity is what we should look at. Speaker, Africa has the youngest population globally. And we know the incidental effect of this on industrial growth, incidental effect of population on the growth of the economy and the growth of a country. We are told Sub-Saharan Africa is projected to be the second fastest growing region globally after Asia. We are also told that now, unlike before when Nigeria was leading, seen as the biggest economy, South Africa now has the biggest economy, arguably the biggest economy. Something they are doing right in the area of manufacturing, something they are doing right in the area of mining. What is happening at Johannesburg? We have a lot of gold deposit in our country, but we are allowed politicking and name-calling and tagging to drain our country. What is it about Johannesburg that we can't do? We can also do same or even better. Our policy of free zone concept, Speaker, is now not, for want of a better expression, not current. Free zone. Now, the experts are talking about economic zone. And not too far, Côte d'Ivoire here. Côte d'Ivoire is becoming more competitive. And we keep relying on our past glory. Côte d'Ivoire now is becoming more competitive in terms of investment destination than Ghana. What are they doing right? They've consistently been reviewing their policy. Their policy on free zone now, they've shifted down. That is what they call economic zone. So, Speaker, not to rehash the high point of my colleague's statement, I'm simply saying that change the fortunes. When it comes to industrialization, we are better positioned. The interrelations about raw material usage, market sources, the fact that Sub-Saharan Africa, we are not trading amongst ourselves, these are basic matters that can be dealt with. But the problem is self-inflicted. The problem is self-inflicted. Let's go away or shift the paradigm and say that enough of the politicking. As long as there is something done which we consider as a productive and something we can continue on as a succeeding government, we should lay claim to it, own it, and say that it's a state project. Let's sustain it. And I think if we begin to change our attitude as politicians, as the political class, we will make a very good progress. We shouldn't be too worried about the number of factories that the NPP built. After all, they built some. We built a number of them. Improve upon them. Don't shy away from the 1D, 1F. Own it. See it as a state project. And then we can make the success that we are all desirous of seeing. Speaker, let me conclude by inviting you. And Speaker, I know you are very good at these consequential directives. Statements, a number of statements I've made in this house. We purgate motions, we lament, and then we leave it there. Notwithstanding the fact that we haven't formed or fully constituted our committees. Speaker, I know you are very wise in such matters and you can guide us how to navigate. This is a very important statement that we can't just let go. Maybe pending the formation of the Committee on Trade. And it's also interesting to realize that His Excellency the President has decided to have the Ministry for Trade now recouched as the Ministry for Trade and Agribusiness. I commend His Excellency the President for that identity. But the effect of it must reflect practically, not just the name and the ID. And so, Speaker, I will invite you, if it finds favor with you, to make some appropriate consequential directives that I know by next week the committees will be fully constituted. They should take a look at this statement and see how we can draw on the trust of it and relate it properly for the betterment of our country. Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement and thank you for the endurance. This number of statements you have admitted. I want to commend you highly, Speaker, for your endurance. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Majority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me also thank the maker of the statement, the former Deputy Minister of Trade, for making this important statement. Mr. Speaker, I think there is no doubt in anybody's mind in this country that Ghana wants to industrialize. We want to become a manufacturing economy. There is no doubt. We want to do same, you want to do same. Why we have always got it wrong is actually the implementation and all the kind of names we give to the kind of industrialization that we want. But the simple fact is that we want Ghana to become a manufacturing economy. We want to add value to all the resources that we are endowed with so that we'll be able to make the shelf value of these things, longer and valuable. There's no question about that. Whether you want to do it through 1D, 1F, or whichever means you want to do it, Ghana must industrialize. That is the bottom line. We are in a continent where we don't do much business with ourselves. Intra-trade is about 3%. And we do business with the rest of the world. Even where we have created an African continental free trade, we are not taking advantage of it. We have not put in any preparation that shows to anyone that Ghana wants to improve trade with its own neighbors. These are the things. And my honorable brother was talking about continuity. I'm not quite sure whether we get to know about continuity when we go to opposition or when we are in government. Because Commander Sugar Factory was handed over to you 8 years ago. You forget about continuity. All of a sudden, we have remembered continuity. Ghana does not produce a grain, not even a grain of sugar. If you go to Uganda has about 20 factories, over 20 factories, sugar factories. We don't produce a single sugar in this country. Previous government put a previous government put up a commander sugar factory. 8 years, the previous government had issue with it, bringing in people to come and take over the sugar factory. 8 years later, the factory is not working. Ghana still does not produce a grain of sugar. So I'm glad about continuity. And we will continue things that needs to be continued. 1D, 1F, for me, did not work. And that's not the argument here. And we have 24-hour economy. Yes, you don't want to hear that. But for the next 4 years, you hear about 24-hour economy. And that, for the situation that we are in at the moment, we believe that is the way to go. We need to be able to produce more. We are not producing more in this country. So 24-hour economy will enable us to triple what we are currently producing. It will enable us to get more people to work. Where one person works, then in the future, it will be 3 people working. If you don't want this, what do you really want? We talk unemployment. It's in the roof at the moment. We need to get our people working. Young people haven't got jobs to do. We need to create jobs for them. And not just for the fun of it, for us to be able to produce. The former minister for lands was talking about import substitution, import substitution. What is import substitution? You need to be able to produce the things before you can substitute them. You cannot just come and pass a law that we are banning importation of this, we are banning importation of that, without having a replacement for what you are banning. That's what we have endured in the last few years, where we have people who are promoting banning of things we don't produce in this country. So if when we start producing those things, then we can actually start stopping certain things from coming into the country. But if you don't produce them and you ban them, you're actually going to increase prices. We are talking about, the minister was also talking about, what is it called? What was he talking about? He was talking about basically looking at what the Americans are doing by being a protectionist, basically. You want to protect and you want to export. What do you really want to do? You want to protect your economy and not bring people in, but you want to export to somebody else. It's import and export. You export what you are good at and you import what you are not good at, so that you'll be able to bring things into this country either as capital good or something to produce this. We are endowed with so many things in this country, yet we don't do much to it. So 24-hour economy is about value addition. Agribusiness, which has been the agribusiness which has been added to the Ministry of Trade, is basically about value addition. That the agriculture produce or the product that we have in the agriculture sector, we are adding value to it. That's what agribusiness is. Add value to it before you either export it or consume it, so that you'll be able to improve the shelf life. Something that will rot in 10 days, you can add value to it and keep it for years and be able to increase the value when you export it. So, important statement by the former minister, but it looks as if we become a bit more knowledgeable about things when we get into opposition. When we are in government, we don't remember some of these things, but we do remember them when we get into opposition. I do believe that we will get our act together. We will work together on this for Ghana to be able to turn Ghana into a manufacturing economy. That is the only way we can survive as a country and take advantage of this African continental free trade that we keep talking about. African continental free trade, but many a times we sign agreement, but we do no preparation for those agreements, and others come and take advantage of us, and we cannot take advantage of them. So as we go along signing agreement, we also have to look at how those agreements will actually benefit us as a country, and not sit down for somebody to take advantage of us and say that we have the African Continental Free Trade headquarters sitting in Accra. And so what? What benefit are we getting out of that? And those are the things we need to look at. Mr. Speaker, I would like to end here. This is going to be a very long conversation for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable members. This is a very important statement. Consequentially, I will ask that the statement be transmitted to the minister responsible for trade, agribusiness, and industry for her perusal and necessary action. Honourable members, statement time has ended. Any indication from leadership? Honourable Deputy Majority Leader, any indication?
Mr. Speaker, it's been a long day. I think we would like to thank you for actually allowing the number of statements that have been made today and the contributions that we have on this. We are in your hands, and I think that we are tired.
Honourable members, in line with Standing Order 56, it is only when we have done more than 5 hours that you can be in my hands. So once we are within the 5 hours, you cannot be in my hands. So I advise that we move a motion for adjournment.
Speaker, that is why you are so admirable. The Speaker is so admirable. Yes, what he should have done was to move a motion because Order 55.3. Ordinarily, we should be doing 5 hours, and we've done less than that. So you should be moving a motion for adjournment. Leader, take a cue and move a motion accordingly.
Speaker, it's been a long day. I didn't actually look at the time. But for the time that I have sat here, I thought we had done more than, the required time. But Mr. Speaker, I would like to move that we bring proceedings to a close for today and adjourn for tomorrow, 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. For 12 o'clock, Mr. Speaker.
Tomorrow we adjourn to 10 o'clock. Yes, the motion has been moved for adjournment. Any seconder?
The motion he moved. In fact, he said 10 o'clock.
Yes, 10 o'clock.
Speaker, you are for 10 o'clock.
That is so.
I second the motion moved.
The motion has been moved and seconded. It's now for the consideration of the House. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The House is accordingly adjourned to Friday, the 14th day of February 2025 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.